We have a major update on Brock Lesnar's status with WWE as rumors of a potential return continue to make waves on the internet. We're going to get into what we know about the situation, the latest news, the latest updates on Brock Lesnar, and why or why not he might be getting ready for a WWE return. We're also going to talk about some Hall of Fame news. That's right, we got two wrestling legends that are about to be honored in a prominent wrestling Hall of Fame that we will talk about later on in this video. All that, much more coming up right here. Be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Let's dive right in and talk about the man, the myth, the beast, Brock Lesnar. So, Brock Lesnar has been indirectly involved in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. Of course, he was not named by name, or identified by name, I should say, in the actual lawsuit. However, it has since been reported by the Wall Street Journal and other professional outlets that Lesnar was a person who Vince McMahon had essentially offered a former WWE employee up to in a pretty disgusting way, if you ask me. But that's the allegation, and that has been one of the things and one of the reasons why we have not seen Brock Lesnar on WWE TV over the past year or so. And that has even stopped him from being in the WWE game and things like that we will get more into as we go through the Fightful report. But Lesnar has not been seen on WWE TV. He has been nowhere in sight. But recently, this week, there have been rumors that Lesnar might be coming back because WWE seemed to be interested in bringing him back, and those discussions may be planned. Well, here's what we know. We know that back in, I believe it was the end of July, Triple H had basically said during a media scrum of sorts after he had met with the mayor of London that there is no reason that Brock is out. Brock will be back when he wants to be back, and that's kind of the end of it, and that's what he said, though we have also learned over the past couple of months that that may not have been the case. But here is what FightfulSelect.com has reported on the matter about Brock Lesnar. Quote, rumors emerged on October 15th that Brock Lesnar and WWE had been in talks and that the company was considering bringing him back. That was denied within the company on a high level, with one source saying, quote, there are no creative plans in place for Lesnar, and if conversations have occurred, we've not been briefed on that. So that is essentially dispelling the notion that there are immediate plans to bring Brock back. That means that as of right now, there's no creative. Obviously, that could change. We knew that, look, and I'm not trying to compare the two situations because they're two very different situations, but CM Punk did not sign with WWE until the day of. We did not know that that was going to be final until the day of his return at Survivor Series 2023. Obviously, because of that, there were no creative plans in place for CM Punk. So, that is not out of the realm of possibility, or that does not rule out the potential that Lesnar might come back. Of course, he might. There's always that whenever you're talking about, Lesnar and kind of where he ranks into things. But the legal stuff does complicate it, as the report will kind of go on to note. Because, this isn't just the same old WWE, right? And I want to be clear, right? We don't know what conversations may or may not have happened. It's possible that someone high up in WWE would have reached out and said, hey, Brock, what are your interests? Do you want to come back? Maybe we get the ball rolling that way. But at the same time, you can't ignore the reality of how far WWE has gone to try to minimize Lesnar's, appearance on TV and appearance in WWE properties, as the FightfulSelect.com report would go on to note. WWE also went to great expense and inconvenience to have Lesnar removed from the WWE 2K24 video game outside of his inclusion in a few game modes and other properties. Lesnar's merchandise was ordered to be listed at reduced rates, and sources we've spoken to say that new products have not been created featuring him on that front. A WWE higher up actually reached out to Fightful in April to state back then, that Lesnar was not imminently returning, as there were inquiries from another wrestling outlet that had been convinced he was set to come back at WrestleMania, which was never a plan. Now, this speaks to two things. Number one, it is the idea that WWE have gone to great lengths, and which they have, to minimize Lesnar's, appearance or, presence on WWE properties. But also number two, that it's not the first time we've heard about Lesnar rumors. It's not the first time we've heard, especially since the allegations against McMahon broke out, that Lesnar was going to come back. There was a high fervor around WrestleMania season, as there always is, that Lesnar would be making a return. And when you factor that in, and I think you also factor in the idea that WWE and TKO have gone through a lot of lengths, and again, expense. You do not spend the amount of money or lose out the amount of money by diminishing the price of Brock Lesnar merchandise, which will still sell, but you don't lose out on that money if you're a company like TKO, which, by Mark Shapiro's own admission, is trying to maximize every single dollar, cent, and nickel that comes their way through revenue sources. This is a company that is trying to essentially, make back some of the money and the losses from not only the merger, but everything that happened after the acquisition of TKO or of UFC and WWE. Like, that is what they were trying to do. They're trying to make the money back on the acquisition. They're trying to make the money back on the merger and make sure that those profits are as high as they possibly can be. So to them, that is essentially what is happening here. And they view this as, we need to make sure that not only are we getting as much money as possible, but we are minimizing the negative PR as possible. Because if there is one thing that will directly impact your stock price, if there's one thing that will directly spook investors, it is bad PR. We have seen that with WWE and TKO as the Vince stuff has broken out, as new details have emerged, as developments in that case have happened. It does impact the stock price. And when you have someone at the level of Brock Lesnar, who was indirectly, again, he was not named in the lawsuit, but he was indirectly implied to have basically been someone that Vince McMahon was trying to solicit a former WWE employee to. When you have that, that is going to definitely come with a fair share of scrutiny. And it's not just going to come from Fightful. It's not just going to come from the Post Wrestling or Observer or whatever, this channel. It is going to come from major mainstream outlets that your investors look at. That is what WWE would be concerned about in this case. They would be concerned about CNBC covering this and how it impacts the stock price. They would be concerned with Wall Street Journal covering this, who have been covering the McMahon case by more in depth than I think any outlet has. They would be, worried about outlets like People, Variety, Time covering these things, and investors who may not be dealing or, really well-versed in wrestling news, but will be well-versed in their mainstream news. They're worried about this news hitting them and them getting spooked and selling, or them being, in any way impacted or affected emotionally by this. They do not want that. And it's for that reason, and that reason alone, I see Brock Lesnar's return to WWE as a dubious proposition. I don't think it will happen anytime soon. I could see a world where if, and again, that's a huge if, the Vince McMahon case is settled or whatever, and again, we don't know what the future of that case is, but if that does happen, then maybe we are faced with a situation where they can bring Brock back, but you also have to examine the field right now. You have a bunch of monsters on WWE TV. You have a Braun Breaker. You have, you had Braun Strowman, but you have a bunch of big guys who are making an impact in WWE. So do you really need a Brock Lesnar? Is that someone you want or need at this point? And I get you always need stars, but WWE's also at a point where they're as profitable as they're going to be. They have The Rock coming back. They don't necessarily need Brock Lesnar from a financial standpoint. So at that point, what exactly is going to change. So we don't know. We'll see. Guys, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. I want to hear from y'all as we move on to our next topic here. But before I do that, I should note, I do want to talk about, real quick, fellows over at SeatGeek, who are offering $20 off your first purchase when you download the SeatGeek app if you use the code REALTAKE. Guys, as someone who goes to a lot of wrestling shows, I can tell you, SeatGeek has been able to get me out of a hole every single time I try to purchase wrestling tickets, because many of them are very expensive. Many of them will run you into the hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. But if you use the code REALTAKE when you download SeatGeek and you sign up, first purchase, you get $20 off. SeatGeek is great. They rate their tickets on a 0 to 10 scale, so you know exactly the type of deal you're getting. They are easy to use. It's right there in your phone. You can download it, use the promo code REALTAKE, and get $20 off your first purchase. Who doesn't love a free $20? I'm going to give it to you right now. $20 off your first purchase if you download SeatGeek using the link in the description and use the code REALTAKE. That is SeatGeek, code REALTAKE. All right, enough shilling, although shout out to the people over at SeatGeek. Let's move on and talk about a Hall of Fame induction, or a series of Hall of Fame inductions that will be taking place fairly soon, as the TNA Hall of Fame has announced that Bob Ryder and Rhino will be the latest inductees into their Hall of Fame. Let's take a look at the press release from TNA. Here it is. TNA Wrestling confirmed that former multi-time champion Rhino and the company co-founder Bob Ryder will be inducted into the TNA Wrestling Hall of Fame as first announced by Busted Open on Sirius XM. The official ceremony for the class of 2024 will coincide with Bound for Glory weekend in Detroit, Michigan, and air live during the countdown to Bound for Glory. The showcase event of the year for TNA Wrestling, Bound for Glory, is Saturday, October 26th at the Wayne State University Fieldhouse in Detroit. Then on Sunday, October 27th, the stars of TNA Wrestling will be back in action at the Wayne State University Fieldhouse, with all matches taped for future episodes of the company's flagship weekly TV show, Impact, which airs every Thursday night on Axis TV. Former two-time world champion and four-time world tag team champion Eric Young will induct and accept on behalf of his longtime friend Bob Ryder. EY also was a world tag team champion with Rhino. So shout out first of all to Bob Ryder and Rhino. Obviously, the ability for TNA to number one host a Hall of Fame given the years that they've had, is insane. The fact that they're so in business is insane. But it is great to see them honoring people from the past. Bob Ryder passed away back in 2020, I believe, and that is why EY will be accepting that on his behalf. It's great to see the history of TNA wrestling be honored here. Rhino really changed the game. He got fired from WWE back in 2005. And the fact that TNA was there for him to go to, make money, and keep a presence up, I would not still have kept up with Rhino, outside of WWE if it had not been for him being there. Excuse me for that. It would not have been for him being in TNA. So these are two legends. Rhino, his work speaks for himself from his time in ECW to WWE, even back into TNA. He really helped during the time in that 2005 to 2009 run to elevate TNA to be one of those stars like Christian Cage, like a Kurt Angle, not to that level, obviously, but to help legitimize TNA in the minds of many fans like myself. And Bob Ryder, he's someone who's worked with a bunch of wrestling companies. I believe he even worked back in ECW, WCW. He was around, and he was very instrumental, along with Jeff Jarrett, in the original, conception of TNA wrestling and what it would become. So shout out to both these gentlemen. They join a list of legends like Kurt Angle, Sting, Ken Shamrock, and others as TNA Hall of Fame inductees. And I can't wait personally to see them highlighted and showcased at Bound for Glory. I will be watching that. I can't wait. Shout out to everyone who is also going to be watching that, but definitely shout out to these guys. I did want to just highlight them because, every time you get to, give back and highlight people from the past, I really appreciate that. And I can't wait to hear the stories, hopefully, that Rhino has to say when his Hall of Fame induction speech. Hopefully we get one. But guys, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this. What do you think about the Lesnar news? All that. I want to hear from y'all. Also, be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.